I'll let you see my shirt. Okay, so I'm Nikki Haverstock and I'm a self-published author, and I'm here to talk about money. Or rather, I'm here to start the conversation about money because I want to do a series that is 100% transparent on not my entire career, but taking a specific slide shot, and being completely transparent, because what I'm seeing is there's a lot of hesitation around money, and I totally get that, and no one owes you their numbers. Just to be really clear, no one owes it to you, but it is very, very helpful. This came out of a conversation that I had recently where I was talking to some very close personal friends that I have a deep intimate relationship with and have for years and years, and I was saying, I'm concerned about my series. I'm not sure if the read through is sufficient. Would you guys mind if I shared some numbers? And I went on Book Report, which is an app you can use on your computer that'll let you very easily see all of your numbers, and it breaks down how many books you've sold, and it's only for Amazon, but I'm mostly on Amazon. That's a whole nother discussion, but it lets you see any time period you want, any books you want, and I was able to pull out books sold, pages read, which is through the Kindle Unlimited program, and you're paid like half a penny per page, but that can really add up. How many books are given away and your total numbers. And I pulled those out for my series and sent them to my friends for the lifetime of the series and just for 2019. And I said, you know, I'm looking at these numbers, I'm seeing a big drop after book one, which is normal. That's just how it works. A lot of people will read book one. Some people only read book ones. They have no interest really in series. And then looking at book 2 and 3 and 4, and I said, are these numbers so bad that I should cancel this series? And I was feeling kind of low. And my friends go, oh my gosh, these are really good numbers. These are better. And these are friends who make more money than me. Said, you know, these are good numbers. You should continue this series. And they're like, why do you think they're bad numbers? And I'm like, because I have nothing to compare it to. And the same happened not too long ago, right before I got off of Facebook in February. I had a similar thing where I was feeling a little down about my sales, and I asked, and I found a huge number of people that I was in community with were not even breaking even. And I'm definitely breaking even. And I went, oh. And I realized that part of it is we have these expectations where you hear from the people who never have made any money. And I've seen videos where someone says, I've made $2 this month. And I'm not slamming them. I'm just saying these are people who feel comfortable sharing their numbers. And on the other hand, you have people who are saying, I made $120,000 last year. But we don't hear a lot from the middle. And I thought maybe this is an area that I can share. I'm not going to share like my current numbers, but I thought, you know, I would feel comfortable sharing maybe my first year. That was almost 4 years ago. I think I wasn't way over here with like, here's how I made my first million, but I did make a profit. So I wasn't over here saying my books flopped. That is a subjective term. I'm just kind of quoting what they're saying because I don't think that is, but I've kind of had a steady growth. And when I kind of talk to people in private, what I hear is my career as an author is indicative of a large segment of successful authors who had a slow and steady build where each year they made a little bit more and built a slow fan base over time as they found their voice. And that a lot of people who now are way over here making a ton of money followed my curve. But you don't hear a lot about them because it's not as flashy to say, hey, I built my career over 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. 10 is a number I hear a lot, steady years. It's not sexy, you know, it doesn't sell courses, but, you know, as someone who's coming up on my 5-year anniversary, it's comforting to hear those stories to me. And I thought maybe I would share some numbers. So long story short, what I'm asking you is, what do you want to know? I asked this on my community page and got some amazing answers. So I'm not negating those. I just thought I'll do a video as well and maybe get some different insight, which is, what do you want to know? What are the things that if I did a video, so I'm thinking of doing 2 videos. I'm thinking of actually doing a whole series. Because like one of the questions I got was, how much should I be paying for editing? What is the range? Which is so smart because I can't give you one number. I can give you a range. And then they said, well, what do people on this range Like you might pay more for this or less for this, or, you know, like for, just to give you an example, someone who's really fast might be more expensive and someone who goes a little bit slower might be less expensive. And so that depending on your needs, you might be able to say, oh, I can go with a slightly slower editor if I can pay less because to me, money's more important than time right now, or whatever. So that would be an example of something where you pay more or less for. So I've gotten that question about like cover designers, editors, what should I be paying? What is in the normal range, which of course varies, but you know, I'll hear people say, oh yeah, I looked online, I Googled, and the National Association of Editors or whatever said I should be paying $4,000 for a book. I mean, that might be true for their clients, but most indie publishers I know are not spending that. Of course, if somebody says I can get it for $50, I'm also dubious. The answer is kind of somewhere in between, depending on the length of your book being the most important factor. What kind of edit is also almost equally as important. And then we kind of get a range of prices, and that can really come down to just preference or you know, genre. Some genres have more editors available than others. Like romance might have more editors available, pool of editors to pick from, than something like literary fiction. Like my editor won't even work on literary fiction because she said the time commitment is so deep that she just can't find a price that justifies her hours. So what do you want to know? And I know a really popular question is, what should I expect for my first book? That's really tough because it's going to depend a lot on, are you writing in a genre with a voracious readership? Because if there are a lot of, so romance, contemporary romance is a very popular, it is very competitive, but there's a lot of readers. And so for that, you might be able to get a lot of people. And of course, there's different schools of thought. And what I mean is, I know people want one answer that says, this is how you self-publish and this is how you make a lot of money and get a lot of fans. But really there's more of like schools of thought, the way you might, a therapist might have a different approach, and you might be able to find a pool of therapists who all work that way and another pool of therapists, and you might, so my school of thought and that I ascribe to tends to be in the low cost, realistic cost. I'm not, you know, but with profit and slow growth. Now you can do a lot faster growth if you're willing to drop 20, 30, 40,000, but it's also a huge risk. I mean, if I read a class and they talk about like borrowing against your credit card, I am not comfortable with that. We took an amount, to me, a reasonable amount, and invested it into my business. We put a little extra in because we wanted to make sure that we legally did everything right, because we have other assets that could be at risk. And we had just done like a family trust. And so we just spent all this money to get a family trust made, our will, or all that. And so the last thing we wanted to do was create a business, a publishing business, which is supposed to be my career, and not have it legally protected. Now, if you don't have a family trust, you might be able to just get away. You probably can get away with just doing a simple LLC or single sole proprietorship, depending on your state, which is what it really matters is your state, what the tax laws are and implications. But the point being that I spent a small amount. I didn't do rapid release because that means that you accrue costs over a long period of time before you start gaining back. Whereas I just did it. I just figured out what I could sustain, started, and just released on that schedule, which meant that by the time I published my third book, money from my first book was coming back into the system. And so I was still putting out money, but I was getting money back. And so then about a year in, I broke even. And then from then, I've only been spending less than I've made. Making sure that I don't have a big, okay. Just making sure that it wasn't some emergency from downstairs, like my husband needing me. So anyway, what I want to know, I have 2 videos planned. I'm sorry I'm rambling, but it's just, this is kind of a whatever video. I have 2 videos planned. The one I want to do is the cost of a single book. Along with, I'm thinking my first book, along with my sales. I had 0 platform. I didn't have a newsletter before I started. But when I was talking to a friend, Zoe York, who also has a channel here, one of the things that bothered me about that is I can tell you all of the immediate costs involved with that book, but there's other costs. You know, do I include my website? Do I include the cost of my newsletter? Do I include the cost of the classes that I took? And so I thought, you know, what might be better is to look at a year, because I didn't just release one book to see how it went. I decided I was going to start a career. When I released book 1, I'd already written book 2, was starting on book 3. There were novellas, so they were very 30,000, but it's a novella series, so it was a real series. So I released book 1 when book 2 was in editing. I'd already started book 3. So then 2 months later, I had novella 2 released. 2 months after that, I had 3 released. And so over the course of that first year, I released, I think, 4 novella series. Started my second series, which didn't work so well. It did okay. And then very shortly after that, is that right? Is that how that worked? Very shortly after that, I gave birth to my first son. So it was not exactly the ideal, but that's actually, I was talking to my husband yesterday, that's actually when I broke even, was when I stopped writing for a few months for my maternity leave that I scheduled for myself, is when I actually started making money, because I finally stopped spending money for a while on editing and covers and all that, and gave a chance for my readers to catch up through the series and to do stuff like that. So those are the 2 videos I'm thinking of making. If there's anything in there that you want to know more about, and of course that's, you know, that's my personal system, but if you have questions about money, now is the time to ask them so I can include them in those videos. And I think it's gonna have to be a whole editing season, because video series, because how I pick an editor, what the prices are, and what they reflect is a whole episode. Cover design, how you pick a cover design. Can you get away with a pre-made? Can you get away with doing it yourself? That's a whole video. Formatting. Can you know, I do it myself because I love the control over being able to change my back matter and fix typos instantly. Plus, I don't think that there's, well, we're getting to that's a whole other video. Newsletter builders, marketing, ads, all that. That's another video. So I think what I have to do is do a video and then go into each part and do a video. But I need to know, are you interested in that? Is that something that you want? So there you go. Tell me what you think.